Hey guys, what is going on, and welcome back to another FPL video on the channel. This one today is just going to be a quick free hit draft for anyone that's considering it this week for the blank game week 29. Obviously there's a few teams that aren't playing, so just going to go through a potential free hit draft that you guys could use if your team's in a complete mess. I think it's going to be an option that is popular for some managers this week. Some people have tried to sort of get their team in a place where it's not necessary, but other people have sort of really attacked the previous weeks and cashed in on some of the teams that have actually done really well. And those teams like Palace, Newcastle, Liverpool that are playing are blanking this week have done really well in the previous game week. So, you know, if you're someone that's owned Munoz, Mateta, players like that, Lewis Hall, then you're going to be sitting really pretty in the points right now, but maybe you need a free hit, you know, because a lot of those players you're going to want back, but you don't want them this week. So I'm going to go through a draft that I think is sensible and something that I would look to use. There's going to be a lot of popular picks in here, but also a couple of differential picks if you want to take on a little bit of risk, because I think it's a week where you can. There isn't too many risky plays because a lot of people will have weaker teams. So if you are going to free hit, I think you want to make the most of it. And the first thing to note is that a lot of the premiums, so a lot of the players that are expensive are blanking this week. So it's really easy to put together a team with having a lot of budget left over there. You really aren't too strapped for cash. So you can kind of go where you want here, and you're going to have some money left over. So basically, starting off, this is the defence that I've gone with, and it's probably a little bit safe in goal with Pickford, a player that a lot of people already own. But I think in terms of the other keepers, there isn't too many better options, in my opinion. I think for me, if I was looking at the fixtures on a whole, I think the team that's most likely to keep a clean sheet is Nottingham Forest, who, as you'll see, I have quite a bit of representation here in this draft. So that's meant that I'm avoiding sells. And probably the second most likely to keep a clean sheet, I would say, is maybe Wolves. But honestly, I don't think Everton is a bad shout. I think Pickford's had not a couple of rough games, but like Pickford and the Everton defence have, they've leaked a couple of goals recently, but they've looked pretty solid on the whole. They're not conceding too many, and I think West Ham are a slightly blunt attack right now. I think the partnership of like Kudus and Bowen up top is quite nice. Like, they look quite dynamic, like bouncing off each other, but they're just not scoring too many goals. I think they're lacking a centre forward. I'm not sure it's like how Graham Potter particularly wants to play right now, and they've got a home fixture. So I could see this being one of those games where West Ham maybe get a lot of shots off, but not high quality shots. So like Pickford could pick up some good save points, and I think it's a decent chance for a clean sheet. And when we get to the bench, we'll look at potentially one or two other keepers that you could go with. Back three. I think this kind of picks itself this week. I just don't think there's very many other defenders I would warrant looking at. Ait-Nouri, I think, is just someone that offers really good attacking potential. If you've watched him throughout the season, and especially in the last game, he just makes so many of those marauding runs forward. Like, you could try and pick up another Wolves defender, but I just think he's the best route into points, especially if they concede. And we've seen Southampton nick goals at points this season. I actually think Wolves are quite a compact team, and I think they're not necessarily an easy team to break down. So I actually think they will keep a clean sheet, and I think there's a really good chance that this guy gets in on the attacking returns, especially with Strand Larsen back in the team. You know, he's got that height, someone that Ait-Nouri can pick out, and he's nice and cheap. So I really like that pick for this week. Gvardio, I think, is just like, you've got the budget, why not? He's been a player all year that's been a threat. And I think City have a decent chance of a clean sheet. I struggle to see it. I could see them conceding one, but again, he's just a player that you have, and I think his attacking data is some of the best for any defender in the game. He can score all types of goals for a defender. You just see him arriving in the box. He can hit the ball well, and yeah, I think in a game where City will probably have a lot of the ball, I think he'll be involved in a lot of the build-up, and I can just see him getting involved. So I think he's a great pick. Aina, I think this is basically just insert any Forest defender. I've watched Forest obviously quite a bit this season, and I'm not sure that I would say there's like a standout for me. I think they've all chipped in it at times. Aina's sort of the one that looks most likely to take on a shot. But I think maybe if you're looking like a Nico Williams, probably has the most assist potential in terms of just volume of crosses into the box. And I think the data backs that up. And then Milenkovic has also got in amongst it at times. So I think it's kind of just your personal preference here. Aina's the most expensive. Again, like I can't see you being strapped for cash, but if you are, Milenkovic is 4.8, Nico Williams is 4.4. So your Forest defender of choice here. And you could even go for a double up if you wanted to. But moving on to the midfield, and I think this is a sort of mixture of safe and differential in midfield here. For me, I think Bruno Fernandes is one of, if not the best midfielder to pick up on the free hit. Again, like the fact that he has a higher price tag would probably put off a lot of people buying him in terms of not using a free hit, because I think is he worth his price right now? Maybe not, but probably not for future weeks. But for this week, I just watched Leicester play against my team, Chelsea, and they afford you so many opportunities. They don't really look like scoring. I know United could be a bit of a blunt attack, but Fernandes just is one of those players, he's on free kicks, he's on penalties, and he just seems to be involved with pretty much everything United do. And I could see this being like a 3-4-1 to United. I think some of the other United players could get amongst it too. I think it could be a week for maybe Garnacho. I could see like Xerxes getting involved. But I just wouldn't go for them over him, and I wouldn't want two United forwards, because I don't think, given the way they've played, I'm not 100% on United, but he's good enough where he, for me, gets in, and I think his floor is super low. I think for me, I'd be surprised if he didn't at least get an assist, So Fernandes is a dead set for me. Kluivert is just one of the best players to own right now, hands down. If you watch the last game against Spurs, he's so involved. Took a really nice finish for his goal that got ruled out. He's just really enjoying his football. You can tell at the moment, and he's the focal point of that team. So you just get him in. Gibbs White, again, kind of insert any Forest forward. Obviously, we've seen a lot of them chip in over the course of the season. I know quite a lot about Hudson-Odoi, obviously him being an ex-Chelsea player, and I don't think he's an FPL pick, because his route to points is cut inside and finesse, or hit it like near post. And you just can't pull that off on a consistent basis, unless you're Iron Robin, or maybe even Mo Salah. You just can't pull that off. So I think for me, I would ignore him. Not to say he can't do it again, but I would ignore him. Alanga, I think, is a little bit more direct, a little bit more threat. But for me, if you're going for someone that is involved in the heart of the Forest attack, it's Gibbs White for me. He's been ridiculously consistent all season. He's got that little bit of swagger. Played a beautiful ball for Hudson-Odoi's goal last week. Chips in himself, and he's the man providing Chris Wood, I think. So he's my Forest pick. And then my final one is a differential. My final one is Savinho. And I've put on the left there that City midfielders can depend on your risk appetite. And for me, Savinho's minutes are probably the most secure. that when you actually go and look, like he starts most games when he's fit. I think off the right, they're just lacking options, and I think he's their best winger at the moment, like out and out winger. And could he get dropped? Yes. I think he's less likely to get dropped than any of the other forwards in that team, bar Haaland. And I think he's got really good data. I think he's got about 0.65 XGI. And he just seems to improve every time I watch him. I think when I first watched him, I thought, he's a bit tricky. I think it was the first game of the season they played against us, and he put a lovely ball through. But he seems to have improved, and I like him as a pick this week. I think he starts. I think he gets at least 70, 75 minutes, and I could just see him doing well. In terms of the rest of the City players, again, this is where I put about risk appetite. If I knew that it's difficult between who will play, Foden, Marmoush, De Bruyne, I think if you're Pep Guardiola, it's unlikely Foden and Marmoush start. I think you just need that bit of balance in midfield, especially against Brighton, who've got a very dynamic team, players like Belieber and stuff like that. I would be surprised if he started with both of those players on the pitch. So I think Kovacic might end up in there as well for this game. And then it'll be one of Foden and Marmoush. Last week we got a leak for who started. If we get anything like that again and we get a confirmation of one of those players starting, I would pick them. Obviously Marmoush is a forward. I would make room for him, I think. And if it was Foden, I would make room for Foden. But since I'm not sure that either of those start, Savinho is my pick in midfield, because you're not really going to want him going forward, but for 1 week, why not? He passes the eye test. Moving on to the forwards, finally, and we have a front three of Haaland, Wood, and Evan-Nilsson. Haaland, there's nothing even to say, really. Like, there's a conversation to be had here if it's about buying him for the future, but it's not. It's 1 week. Budget can easily afford him on a free hit. He'll be your captain if you get him, unless you're really bullish on Wood, which I think I am, but you're captaining Haaland if you have Haaland. He's pretty much guaranteed to start. They've had a week off City, and I think he's the best captain this week. Chris Wood, I really like Chris Wood this week. I know he hasn't scored in his last 2 games, but I just think he'll get chances against Ipswich, and I think he'll be desperate to get back onto the score sheet. I could see a Chris Wood brace in this game. So I really like Chris Wood. A lot of people own him, so you're covering yourself off by having him, and there just aren't too many decisions to be made about forward players for this week, I think. Like, if you actually go through the forwards list, how many of those are jumping out to you? Like, for me, not many. And that's where I come over to the last one, Evan-Nilsson. Again, like, he's just the third best forward for me. Like, he looked great against Spurs. I think he's played in back-to-back games now since his injury. Bournemouth don't have an FA Cup fixture until after the next Premier League game, so there's no reason why he won't start this next fixture. He had a really nice link-up with Clive all game, and I just think he's got a low floor. I can see him being involved again. So for me, he is the best third forward pick. And a couple of options off the bench, and this is going to depend on who you prefer, because some of these you'll have to swap out. So, for example, like, maybe you prefer a Semenyo. I quite like Semenyo, but I think from what I've seen, Evan-Nilsson seems to be more involved in a lot of the build-up towards the goals. Like, he's got that sort of hold-up play and, give and go. I can just see him being more involved than Semenyo at the moment. But if you want to take that on and you're, you could either... I probably wouldn't go 3 Bournemouth forwards, because you're then cutting yourself off with the bonus points. Like, realistically, if you have Semenyo, Evan-Nilsson and Clivert and they all score, only 2 of them are, you can only get so many bonus points. So I just wouldn't do that. I think it just lowers your route to points. But if you don't fancy Evan-Nilsson and maybe you want to play another striker, maybe you fancy like a Beto or someone like that, then you can do that. Or you can just play Semenyo and have 5 in midfield. Jose Sarr for Wolves in goal. Again, I spoke about sort of clean sheet potential, and I don't see too much potential across the board, but I think Wolves are right up there. I think he has a good shot. And then Kirkes, again, I'm really high on Bournemouth. I just think they look great. They've got a week off now. And Kirkes, I mean, unbelievable assist in the last game. There's no recency bias here. He just looks like a great pick. Like, I wanted him in my team before, and I got a little bit screwed over with injuries, so it meant I had to buy Howsam. But I'm really upset that I didn't get this guy, because I just think he's better. And I wouldn't be surprised if he chips in again. So I think he's a great pick. And then the final one is Gabriel. Again, this is boring because he's got high ownership, and anyone not free hitting, obviously, who already has Gabriel, will play him. But I'm just, again, as a Chelsea fan, we haven't looked great. We only put one past Leicester. We didn't really look like scoring much outside of that. We are starting to get a few players back, but I think most of them are going to be fully back after the international break. Lavia was on the bench. Fofana's back in the team. But in terms of our front line, Neto barely did anything last game. And Kunku had sort of one half chance. He doesn't really look like scoring. Palmer's out of sorts. So could we score? Yes, but I could see a 1-0 Arsenal with a Gabriel header in this, honestly. It just feels like that type of game. Like, I've been here as a Chelsea fan. Our record against Arsenal has been poor. So for me, I wouldn't put him in. Maybe a bit of bias there and a bit boring, but I don't think you can go wrong. I could see it. I could see a potential return for him. So yeah, that's my free hit team. Like I said, I think there should be an element of differential picks in there, because this is a good chance to. Like, you're not going to keep any of these players. I always think in FPL, like, differentials can really make or break a week, and it's hard to go there because you're like, okay, do I want this player for 3, 4, 5 weeks? What if I get stuck with them? Like, we've all been there. But using that free hit, it's the best time to take on a little bit of that risk, and there's a couple of fixtures here which you can target. So anyway, hopefully that helps you guys. If you are looking to free hit, let me know in the comments below if you agree or disagree with any of these picks, or if you think there's any better ones. And good luck for the weekend. Please do like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and let me know if you have any feedback. Thanks again, guys, and see you on the next one.